Item 62, SB 1032. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 1032 by Senator Reyes, enacting to employment.
Senator Reyes, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. Members, I rise to present SB 1032, which will create a clear, common-sense regulatory framework for temporary staffing agencies, similar to what already exists for contractors and other high-risk industries. California has the largest temporary staffing market in the nation, with staffing firms generating over $41 billion in annual revenue and employing millions of workers over the course of a year. Despite this scale, California lacks a dedicated licensing and regulatory framework for temporary staffing agencies, allowing gaps in oversight that can put workers, honest businesses, and taxpayers at risk. This fragmented labor enforcement system leaves workers and families exposed. This bill addresses this issue by establishing clear oversight, real accountability, and required registration so staffing agencies are complying with the law before harm can occur. The SAFE Act would align temporary staffing agencies with the existing regulatory approach in other industries to protect workers and promote compliance. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Senator Grove. You are recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. I respectfully rise in opposition of SB 1032. Going through the language in the bill would authorize a registered staffing agency to bring action against an unregistered staffing agency. The comments about this bill being aligned with many other industries is completely false, with all due respect. No other industry is required to register a separate license with the Department of Industrial Relations in order to be certified that they have a workers' compensation insurance policy. The law clearly requires businesses in the state of California to have a workers' compensation insurance policy, and if they don't, there is a fine penalty and you can be put out of business. This bill allows your competitor to file a lawsuit against you if you don't get a registration ID from the Department of Industrial Relations prior to conducting business. In the staffing industry, you have to gain or engage in getting business to be able to conduct business. You can't go apply for a workers' compensation policy and not have an estimated annual report for payroll, because that's how your policy is based on a price or a cost for purchase. You can't get a registration from the Department of Industrial Relations on this bill unless you have a workers' compensation policy. This industry is 42% women-owned. This industry should be supported by the Legislative Women's Caucus. This industry provides more jobs to second chancers than any other industry in the state, and those numbers are available in high dollar numbers online. The state of California has so many rigorous rules for employers that employers will tend to go to a staffing agency on a try-it-before-you-buy-it cart program. So, like, they'll employ somebody for 90 days to see if they're going to show up, to see if they're going to get to be an employee, see what their soft skills look like, and then they hire them. This bill, based on research that I did, is backed by a billionaire staffing industry PEO owner who is just looking for an easy way to take out smaller providers. This bill requires staffing agencies, minority and women-owned staffing agencies, to also list their clients online. Now, staffing agencies will go knock on doors, maybe get a bite, follow up, and then sign a client up to be a client of the staffing agency where they provide the safety, the payroll, the taxes, the workers' comp, the liability insurance, the safety training, and then there's a dual employment relationship under the Department of Industrial Relations that the employer on site is just as responsible for safety as the staffing agency that provides that employee there. The frustrating piece about this bill is, other than the things that I already mentioned, is that some of the requirements in order to get this certificate that no other employer is required in the state of California to having the staffing agency shall register with the commissioner before conducting any business. So like I said, you have to register to get a workers' comp policy when you have no employees and you can't estimate how much your payroll is because you haven't been able to engage in the business to be able to get the business in the first place. The commissioner shall not permit any staffing agency to register or renew registration until the following criteria is satisfied. They have to state all stated salaries and financially interested either partners, associates, or profit-sharing staffing agencies together with the amount of the respective interest. That's easy to do, that part, because if you are going to apply for this, then you would know who your business partner is. For mine, it would be simple. Gloria Hernandez. She's been with me for 24 years and now owns 50% of the business. The financial status of the staffing agency, that's not even, I don't want to say relevant. A staffing agency is an interesting animal when it comes to payroll. If I get a business with the president of the Senate in my staffing agency and she allows me to payroll some of the people in here, then all I have to do is submit that invoice that I bill out for to the bank, and then the bank will factor that money and give me and deposit that money instantly into my account. So it's not like if you pick up a client with 50 employees, you automatically have to have those resources available, because you don't. Because there's a thing called factoring in the state of California that lets you immediately get paid for your invoices. It says that you have to have the business affiliations of the staffing agency. Like I said, we knock on doors, we meet with people, HR professionals, and then somebody after 100 people that you've gone through the business gets you in the door and they let you provide the service. Now we're going to have to provide that client's name up online. So this multi-billionaire large PEO staffing agency was part of the mainstay disaster who got workers' comp insurance from the Indian tribes just several years ago, which California outlawed. That individual would go online and say, oh, this company has John Doe Construction, and they would walk right in and underbid your contract and your price just because they've got billions of dollars to spare. The business, so the other part of it is the commissioner after investigation is satisfied of the, remember, 42% women-owned agencies, the character, competency, and responsibility of the staffing agency. What does that mean? Does that mean because I don't have a college degree, I wouldn't qualify to be a staffing agency owner? Been in this business for 36 years, but is that a character flaw because I didn't go to university? Is it a character flaw that, the competency? How do you know? Because I didn't have any, I don't have a college degree, barely graduated from high school, and I started down a dirt road off of Fruitvale Avenue, but I eventually became the largest independently woman-owned staffing agency in the Central Valley. We employ second chancers. 55% of the people we employ are second chancers that have an opportunity to get a job to go someplace else. What does that mean? Staffing agency competency, character, responsibility. Then it says the staffing agency has to pay an initial renewal program for the fee of the commissioner. What is that? And why should we be subject to an additional cost of doing business in the state of California? This bill is punitive to, like I said, 42% of women-owned businesses. And when you look at the private right of action, per se, that's in here, that your competitor can file a lawsuit against your business to stop you from doing business in the state of California over a piece of paper that you can't get from the Department of Industrial Relations because government operates slow and you can't even start a new business. It's very punitively written. It brings up any part of a private action for superior court. You don't even have to demonstrate actual harm, and you cannot engage in any type of business activity at all in any way, shape, or form, even see if you could be successful by reaching out to other clients, to clients to see if they would be willing to do business with you without getting this specific number, and you can't have the number without a workers' compensation policy. You can't have a workers' compensation policy without any employees. This just is and I could give you the whole history and character behind the billionaire old white guy that is behind this bill to stop people from doing business in the state of California, and it needs to stop. And I just respectfully, with all due respect to the author, this is way punitive to a great industry that, again, provides jobs to second chancers, people of color, women, United States military veterans, and respectfully ask for a no vote on this horrendous piece of legislation.
Thank you. Seeing no further discussion or debate, Senator Reyes, would you like to close?
Thank you, Madam President. I do thank my colleague from Bakersfield. I had a wonderful meeting with her before today, and we talked about many of the same issues. I do want to share that, as many of you know, I was a workers' comp attorney for over 30 years, and as a workers' comp attorney, I did see some of the bad actors. We have great actors, including the senator from Bakersfield, who has a very successful business staffing agency. But as a workers' comp attorney, I can tell you there were many staffing agencies that were not those great workers. And I think the state of California has an obligation to the rest of California to have at least a registration for staffing agencies. I think many of the points are well taken from my colleague, and some of those are things that we've already been in discussions about. I will tell you that in Senate Judiciary, we removed the collection of attorney's fees from the prevailing party, thus helping to avoid and curtail frivolous lawsuits. On the registration fee, initially it was $5,000, and after comments from the staffing agencies, both California staffing agency representatives and national staffing agency representatives, we removed that and said that the commissioner is the one that's going to make the determination as to what the registration fee would be. For most of the others, it is between $500 and $600, and we would anticipate that it would be the same. The other is a delay in implementation. My colleague brought up a great point that if you're just starting your business and you don't really have employees, how are you going to get insurance? We have agreed, and we will be taking it in the next House, to agree to delayed implementation. So it's within 30 days of when you start your business, then you register with the state of California. In addition to that, allowing for a 6-month delay period, because we know that sometimes you apply for something from our beloved state and you don't get what you're applying for. So allowing for a period of time up to 6 months to allow the state of California to actually get you completely registered. But I will tell you that it is my 30 years of experience. It's unfortunate that there is a billionaire who has been commented about over and over again. But there are some good staffing agencies. There are also some bad staffing agencies. I've had the privilege of knowing the good staffing agencies, but I've also had clients who were deeply hurt because they worked for staffing agencies without workers' comp insurance. With that, I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Thank you. Seeing no further discussion or debate, Secretary, please call the roll.
Allen. Alvarado Gil. No. Archuleta. Aye. Adeguin. Aye. Ashby. Aye. Becker. Aye. Blakespear. Aye. Cabaldon. Caballero. Aye. Cervantes. Aye. Choi. No. Cortese. Aye. Daly. Durazo. Aye. Gonzalez. Aye. Grayson. Aye. Grove. No. Hurtado. Aye. Jones. No. Laird. Aye. Limon. Aye. McGuire. Aye. McNerney. Aye. Menjivar. Nilo. No. Ochoa Bog. No. Padilla. Aye. Perez. Aye. Reyes. Aye. Richardson. Aye. Rubio. Sillarto. No. Smallwood Cuevas. Aye. Stern. Aye. Strickland. No. Umberg. Aye. Valadares. No. Wahab. Aye. Weber Pearson. Weiner. Aye.
Secretary, please call the absent members.
Allen. Aye. Cabaldon. Aye. Daly. Menjivar. Rubio. Aye. Weber Pearson. Aye.
Ayes 29, noes 9. The measure passes.